Welcome to the F-Bomb, where I talk about film, analog, darkroom stuff, and old school photography. So today what we're going to do, we're going to talk about Enlarger lenses. So you just bought yourself an Enlarger for 10 bucks, your grandfather just gave you one, and you're like, hey, let's start printing some of my negatives. But the thing is, you have to choose the right glass. And then, because Enlargers have been going on for 100 years, lots of lenses exist. So how do you know which one is the sharp one, which one is not so sharp? Because they do make a difference. So let me show you what I have here, and let's talk about format first. So there's many different formats in photography. So there's 35mm and smaller formats. You've got 120, which is medium format that can range from 645 all the way to 6x9. And even panoramic size. And then we have large format, which is 4x5, 5.7, or 8x10 format, negative size, of course. So let's start talking about some of the lenses, and let's go through the first part, which is literally which lens you're going to use for what format. Okay, so there's different formats. So for 35mm, we have 50mm is the standard on your camera lens, and also under the Enlarger. One thing you must know about Enlarger lenses is that they're flat field lenses, which means that they're meant to reproduce two-dimensional objects onto a two-dimensional object. So literally film to paper, if it's flat, you don't actually want to take some of these lenses and try to jimmy it onto your camera and think you're an artist by photographing with it, because it's going to look terrible. So don't even bother. They're actually Enlarger lenses, and they're designed for this. So you've got the 50mm for the Enlarger. So here's a Nikkor, an old barrel tube Nikkor metal. This one is 2.8. Now they've made different types of lenses. They have 2.8 and f4, and of course the 2.8 will just give you more light to work with under the Enlarger, make it faster and easier to see. You don't want to print at 2.8 though, because most of these lenses are better at 5.6 or f8. So if you put it on f8, you have a better sharpness. Now for medium format, 80mm is equivalent to the 50mm in the world. So you've got an 80mm, 645, 4x4, 6.7. So the three most popular format in the medium is always going to be 80mm. Now for 80mm, most of them are f4. Some of them you might see smaller, they'll be 5.6. But f4 is the one you're actually going to look for. Now for the 6x8s and the 6x9, which starts to become literally a large format 35mm, it's exactly the same, except it's on 120. I have a 105 5.6 here, because you actually need a little more coverage around the corners. And then you're moving on to large format. Large format 4x5 is 135. So we have a 135. Most of them are 5.6. This one is what? No, it is 5.6. So you have, this is an old school lens. I also shoot with an old school lens on my 4x5. So I actually like the style of the 1950s large format work, which Ansel Adams was known for, which most of the Southwest photographers were known for. So it's kind of a classic lens, made in Germany. Another thing I have to talk to you about lenses is we're going to talk about the different types. Now some lenses are 4 different lenses in a barrel. Some other have 6 or even 8 different types of lenses. Most of them are not coated. So if you look at this one, it's like from the 50s, there's absolutely no coating on it. So some of the modern lenses, like this one, you can see the coating. It has this purple fringe in it. So these new lenses are actually coated, and they'll be sharper. And then talk to you about specialty lenses. you have these type of lenses, which are apochromatic. So they're really well coated, and they're coated on the inside so that the inside there's absolutely no flare whatsoever. And of course, flare happens both sides in your darkroom and in your lens. So that flare just makes it lose contrast. So this one is a lens that will give you contrast. Now, there's a few things you can cheat with in the enlarger. Let's say you're shooting 35mm and you want to make small prints. Like you have a small darkroom and you want to make 4x6 or 5x7 prints. Instead of using a 50mm, you can use an 80mm. And the 80mm will just literally allow you to telephoto project the 35mm to a small format. So you can even go all the way down to like literally stamp size photograph. So it's kind of fun. You're not going to lose anything by doing it. It just helps you have the enlarger here, and it allows you to dodge and burn a little bit if you want, because you've got distance between you and the paper. Same thing with medium format. You can use your large format lens, your 135 with a medium format. You'll still have lots of coverage around it, because all the enlarger lens does is open up the circle of confusion under your enlarger lens. So that's what you must know about lenses. Now, the other thing that we have to talk about is if you're going to do a shot high from above here, and you'll see different lenses, different manufacturers will use a different amount of blades in the inside. Like you can see, my oldest lens here probably has 12 blades, and the iris is completely open, like almost a perfect circle. And some of the German lenses, they only use like 2, 3, 4, 5 blades. So the way that's going to reflect, it's going to reflect also on your, and this, even this one is different. This one has a circular aspect to it. So all of this will make a difference to the silver and the silver grain and how it prints on the paper. So some lenses will give you more definition around the silver grain. Some other ones will soften it. The older ones without coating will soften it. The apochromatic 40, 50, it's gonna be insane. The definition around the grain, it really makes a difference. The flare inside the enlarger makes a difference. And that's it. And then there's other specialty lenses that exist outside of the three major classics, and you have to be pretty specific. Let's say you have a 35mm enlarger, it's a small enlarger, you want a really large print like a 20x24, but you're limited by the height of your enlarger. Here we have a 40mm apocomponon, wide angle componon. So what that allows you to do, it's the same as a wide angle, but for flat field. So it's a flat field wide angle. So the 40mm will just give you a little bigger print than what a 50mm might give you. So sometimes that's just the edge that you need to pull it off. And then you have other specialty lenses like the 105, but mostly the componon is the best lens category you can have. So anything apochromatic, if you see it, it's a good price, grab it because they're rare. The coating is absolutely stunning and the image quality is razor sharp. Otherwise, Nikon has a reputation of being almost too sharp for some people. Some of the old metal barrel ones like this. Some of the recent ones have, gone a little softer. But some of the old ones have a real quality, like almost a Nikon quality to them. And then the German also have their own quality. And that's the weird part. It's like, which one is better than the other? Apocomponon really is better. It just looks better. On the other ones, it becomes personal choice. Some of the German glass will almost show you less grain than what a Japanese glass will give you. So you have to choose, which one do I want, Personally, I really like the Nikon on my prints, and then I have a Leica Enlarger and the Fokotar, and I'll tell you, they're both very different when you look at the prints. So you have to choose, and but you can do no wrong. If you have a good Nikkor 2.8 in the 50, or if you have, you know, the Schneider Cruzac in like 50, 80, 135, you're doing well. So, but try to, you know, unless you're trying to find an old look, you're trying to like move away from like the really old lenses, because they weren't that good. I mean, glass at one point was actually handmade and hand ground, and the new lenses are just, they're way more precise. So anything back from the, let's say 1985, the last 25 years of the great optical life of old school photography, that's the lenses you want to look for. For what they're worth, grab them, and good luck.